you.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Hi, David.
Hello, Frank.
There I am.
How you doing?
Okay. Just so everyone who's already here early knows that we're already live and streaming on YouTube. Just so you know, this meeting is being recorded. I'll say it later on, but I just wanted you all to know. I'm sorry, for whatever reason, the application that I have to copy our streaming information into likes to refresh every time I go to the other screen where I have to get the information. So I've had to learn to come up with a way to work very, very quickly, quick like a buddy, since it's Easter, that'll work. So I'm sorry. Jean, was what you needed the question about the announcement for Earth Day at the park? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I have one person queued up for first on good and welfare. I'll make sure that you're second. I'm going to write it into my notes for tonight. Was there anything else that you needed?
No.
Okay, excellent. Good evening, everyone. As you're coming on, understand that we are already streaming live on YouTube and that this meeting is recorded. We'll start in about 2 minutes. Mark, Peter, you both have been designated as co-host. Christine, you should be co-host now. Is that correct? Okay.
It does say that, yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you all so much. Good evening, everyone. Everyone joining. It's 7 o'clock. We are live on YouTube and we are being recorded. I want to just give another minute or so. I'm seeing a lot of people popping in here at the 7 o'clock, so I just want to make sure everyone is here before we begin.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Okay. I'm just going to check the attendees to make sure that none of our new members ended up on the wrong side of this meeting. Just give us give me 1 second. I think we're solid, which is a good sign. Thank you all so much. Because WebEx has been a little bit of, it's just not necessarily as cooperative as we would like sometimes, I'll just put it that way. But I think we have everyone. Could my co-host make sure, because now I'm going to switch into starting the meeting, just keep your eyes on that list and make sure that we're not missing anyone who may have accidentally ended up on the other side. I'd appreciate that. Okay, to get started, because we have quite a bit. I know our agenda sort of looks kind of straightforward, but after agendas go up, sometimes things get slight adjustments. So we're going to move along tonight. For new members, we'll give instruction as we move along, because we know some of this will be new to you, and we don't want you to be lost in the mix, because we know you haven't had your training yet. So just wanted to kind of let you know that we're going to be sort of helping you all through tonight. So I hope that is helpful. Okay, so welcome to the April meeting of the Queens Community Board 6. As a reminder, and I've said this about 1,000 times, this meeting is being recorded, and it is also being live streamed on YouTube. Before we begin tonight, it is necessary that we recognize that the violence currently witnessed here at home and around the world is very unsettling. But being here tonight, committing ourselves to community service is one way that we can affect any type of change in our communities, our cities, and our world. Helen Keller, a very famous and wonderful pioneer who
Not getting audio,
lived in Forest Hills, once said, "Alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much." Tonight we've got 11 more people that make our together much larger and much richer. So I wanted to first say welcome. We are pleased we have 11 new members of the board tonight, and we'd like to welcome them. We know that not being in person sort of makes this a bit of a challenge as we see each other on boxes, but we wanted to take a little moment to sort of introduce ourselves. I do want to introduce two important people to this meeting to everyone. These are people that you will be talking to a lot in the next in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, however long you feel you are to serve on this board. And the first is District Manager Frank Galuccio. Frank will answer any question you have. When I first joined the board, the poor guy, he took more questions than I think he ever thought he'd be asked. But never fear, he will answer your questions. He has been in city business up to his elbows for a long time, and he loves to share information. That could also be partly because he has been a teacher in a previous life. So he's very generous with his information as to what goes on in these meetings. If you need some background on something, he is wonderful to reach out to. I'm still learning from Frank to this day. The second person is Christine Nolan. You've already been in contact with her, I know. She has helped coordinate getting you into this meeting tonight. She is also a wonderful resource. She's been with this board quite a long time. She started with us early, and she is always very helpful. If she doesn't know where to get the answer, she will get the answer. She will find it and get the answer for you. So those are your two real go-to people. There are other two people who aren't on the call tonight who are in the office as well, and you'll learn more about them at a training coming up. Barbara and Maria, they are wonderful. They also work with certain agencies, so they are as equally helpful. But tonight, I just wanted to take a moment and have us go around and introduce ourselves. I'm going to call your name and then just have you introduce yourself, say where in the community you live, when you joined the board, and what your favorite part is, okay? So I'm going to start at the top of the list. And Michael Arcadi, you have the great pleasure of being first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Mike Arcadi. I live here in Forest Hills on Exeter Street. I've been a member of the board for a year now, and I didn't hear the last question.
The question is, what is your favorite park?
Oh, I was just there running with my dog, Flushing Meadows.
Okay. Anicia Ione.
Hi, I'm Anissa Ion. I live in Regal Park since 1969, and one of my favorite parks is Flushing Meadow Park.
Fantastic. Kavish, good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kavish. I've joined the community board last year, so I'm fairly new as well. And my favorite park is, I would say, Real Good Park near Horse Harding.
Excellent. Peter Beadle.
Hi all, I'm Peter Beadle. I'm the first vice chair of the board. I'm also a co-chair of the transportation committee. I live over just off the 63rd Drive on Saunders in Rego Park. Been on the board, I think I'm in my 8th year, And my favorite park would be Flushing Meadows. That's my favorite park in the entire city. So welcome to everybody who's new to the board. Really happy to have you with us.
Next would be Miriam Burkus. However, she is not able to join us this evening. So next up is Howard Birnbaum. Howard.
Good evening. How are you? My name is Howard, and I live in Regal Park. I joined in 2021, and my favorite park is McDonald Park on Yellowstone, Queens Boulevard.
Awesome. Next up is Heidi Chain.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heidi. I've lived in the community in Forest Hills. I'm off of Escan Avenue. I've been on the board over 20 years. I do adore Flushing Meadow Park, but within the precinct, I have to agree with Howie that I like McDonald Park. It's sort of the center of our community, and we use it with the precinct council quite a bit, and I'm also president of the precinct council. Thank you, Heather, and welcome, everybody.
You're welcome. Next up, Sheridan Chu. Sheridan? We'll have to meet Sheridan later. Next is one of our, I believe, our first new member, LT. Are you here this evening?
Yes, I am. Hi. My name is
Good
my name is LT Chachia. I live right on the border between Rego Park and Forest Hills. And my favorite park, I do love Flushing Meadows, but I think my favorite park is just the little park at the end of my block where you can just kind of sit and meet all the people who live in the immediate area.
Awesome. Is that the park on Austin and 67th?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, fantastic. You're not too far from me. Okay, next up is Condra Clark, another new member.
Hi, my name is Kendra Clark, and I just joined the board. And my favorite park is Flushing Meadows as well. And I live Forest Hills, border of Kew Gardens, so right on 76 Road.
Excellent. Next up is Alexander Cohen.
Hi, I'm Alex. I've been a board member for about 3 years, maybe. I'm not great with time. I live on Clyde Street, literally across the street from the stadium. And I think my favorite park would be McDonald, mostly for the farmers market.
Understood. Next up is Latrice Davis. Latrice.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Latrice Davis. I live in Regal Park. I've lived here since 2018. I've been on the board for a little over a year now. And my favorite park in Queens is Forest Park. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. John Darazuski, you're next. John, you're muted. I think John's having some technical difficulties. So when John gets that worked out, if John doesn't, just so you all know, John has been with this board for some time. He serves on this.
Hold on, can you hear me now?
There you are.
Okay, you hear me now. I'm usually not so much a man of few words, but I'm John Dereshevsky. I'm the board's parliamentarian, and I live right on the border of Forest Hills and Regal Park at 67th Road and Booth. And I think my favorite park really in this area is McDonald, which is a very nice oasis in a oasis in the area, which is a very good place to get away from. So, and welcome to the new members.
Thank you so much. Next up, Alejandra Diaz-Houston.
Hi, everyone. So yes, my name is Alejandra Diaz-Houston. I live in Forest Hills. I've been a board member since, well, for about 3 years, and I'm the co-chair of the Transportation Committee, along with Peter Beadle. And my favorite park is Forest Park, mostly because it's my little dog's favorite park. He's always so happy when we go on the trails there.
Thank you so much, Alejandra. Next up is Keith Engel.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Keith Engel. I live in Forest Hills. I've been a member of the board for over a year. My favorite park is definitely Flushing Meadows, and if it's okay, Pelham Bay Park in the Bronx. I want to welcome all that are new to the board.
Fantastic. Thank you, Keith. Next up is Brendan Griffith.
Heather, it's Christine. If I may, for 1 second. We're getting a little bit of feedback. So if you're unmuted and the person speaking is unmuted, we get some echoing. So after you call on the person, if you can mute yourself, I think it would be easier to hear everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Next up is Brendan Griffith.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brendan. Nice to meet you all. Welcome to the new board members. I live on Olcott over by Metropolitan now, but when I first came to Forest Hills in 2013, and I apologize, I've been on the board since 2016. I was at 72nd Avenue and 110th Street. So my favorite park / playground is Willow Park Playground by PS 196 because it was where I brought my daughter after she was born. It's wonderful. Thank you. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you, Brendan. Next up is Karen Imus.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Imus. This is my first community board meeting. It's really excited to be here. It's nice to meet you all. I grew up in different parts of Rego Park in Forest Hills on the north and south side of Queens Boulevard. And I live now in Forest Hills on Juneau Street. My favorite park is really a toss-up between Flushing Meadows and Forest Park. It's really hard to choose. It's like picking your favorite child. So it's a tie. They're both wonderful. Good to be here.
Thank you so much, Karen. Next up is Serena Jane.
Oh. Can you see me?
Serena. Yes, I can.
Okay. Hi, my name is Serena. It's my first community board meeting. I'm very excited to be here. Please excuse me that I'm outside. My meeting ran late and I am not able to sit down at my desk for the next 45 minutes. I moved into Forest Hills 5 years ago. I married into Forest Hills is what I usually say to everyone. I married into Forest Hills, so I'm still getting to know Forest Hills well. I have as soon as I moved into Forest Hills, we had 2 kids back to back, so I really haven't explored this city as well. But Miss Lynn Schulman, who's a councilwoman, and I become good friends, and she suggested I run for the community board. I love people. I love community. I'm all about community, so I'm hoping to be a part of this group and make a difference, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me, and I hope it's okay if I'm outside while listening in.
Serena, we love that you did whatever it took to be at this meeting tonight. We have a lot of members like that, and we appreciate that greatly, so thank you.
I did, and to answer your question about the park, I don't know. I'm still getting to know the parks pretty well. You would think I would know the parks by now. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, but I don't. So I need to explore more and get out more.
Well, keep a list of what people are saying tonight, and you should have a pretty proper list to get started.
Yeah.
Next up, I want to call on Mark Laster.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Laster. I've been a member of the board since 2016. I'm currently the 3rd vice chair of the board, and I'm also co-chair of the Aging, Social Service, and Disability Committee. And my favorite park, I think we're beginning to get a consensus here, but it's McDonald Park. Because again, I think it's almost like our town square. And again, I'd like to welcome all the new members of the community board.
Thank you so much, Mark. Next up is Beatrice Leong.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Oh, can you see me? Hi, everyone. My name is Beatrice Leong, and this is my first Queens Community Board meeting, and I'm a new member. During the day, I'm a divorce lawyer, and I live in Forest Hills. And I'm ashamed to say, but I don't have a favorite park. I'm not really outdoorsy, but if I had to pick, I would pick City Field, just to visit.
Thank you so much. Next up is Jonathan Lee.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Lee. This is my 3rd year on the board. I grew up in Rego Park, but now I live in Forest Hills since 2016. And I'd say my favorite park is McDonald Park.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next up is Kevin. Kevin?
Hi, Heather. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. So my name is Kevin Lee. I live in Forest Hills. one of my favorite place would be the Queen's Botanical Garden. And I'm sorry, I'm at a work event tonight, so it's good to see everyone and welcome to the new members. Yep.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Next up is Jack Medina.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Jack, Barstow. And I've been on the board since 2009. Happy where things are going. I would have to say Cunningham Park is really nice. I mean, there's so many parks in Queens. There's Cunningham Park, Casina Park, but my heart still lies at McDonald Park. Even after the hurricane, when the community came together and they were repotting trees and cleaning it up, it still doesn't look the same, but I still remember the way McDonald Park looked, and it's still his home.
Thank you so much, Jack. Next up is Dr. Renee.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Renee Mera, and I've been on the board for the last 18 years now. I'm the chair of Social Media and Public Relations Committee. And I have a few favorite parks, but if I narrowed them down, Flushing Meadows Corona Park, Central Park, but right in my neighborhood is right in my block, actually. It's on 97th Street and 63rd Road. I love that park. It's actually a private park, but it's beautiful.
Fantastic. Also, by the way, if you're not speaking tonight, if you all could just remain muted, because we're trying to troubleshoot the echo tonight. So that would be one thing that is helpful. So just simply when it's time for you to speak, unmute, and you can please ask if we can hear you, because we know sometimes it can be tricky. But just try to keep muted if you can. Thank you so very much. Next up will be Stephen Metz. Thank you, Dr. Renee.
Hello, my name is Stephen Metz. I live on 71st Avenue in Forest Hills. And anyone who says that Forest Park isn't the best park is wrong. I'll just come out and say it. And the reason why is because if you know where to look, you can find Santeria ritual sites and other weird and wild things.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Next up is Julie Milner. You're still muted. The unmute is at the bottom to the left. It should be. Still can't hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, there.
Sorry about that. I was pushing the button and nothing was happening. I'm Julie Milner. This is my first board meeting. It's very nice to see all of you. I live in Rego Park, Queens on 63rd Avenue. And my favorite park would have to be Casino Park, even though it's connected to the broader Flushing Meadow Park.
Thank you so much. Next up is Pat Morgan. Pat, were you able to be with us tonight?
Yeah, I'm here. How am I
Good to
coming
hear
in?
from you.
Can you hear me coming in?
Yes, it's beautiful. Thank you.
All right. I live in Rego Park. I moved to Queens in '67 from the demarcation line of the South Bronx and lived in Lefrak for the first 15 years. And then in '82, moved to Rego Park. So I've been a member of this community since 1967. My favorite park, unfortunately, is the Central Park Conservancy because I love it for shooting flowers. My favorite Queens Park has to be the Queens Botanical Garden because I love it for shooting flowers, photographing flowers and leaves and stuff. Can't really always get up to trees up and close in the Queens Park because it's not disabled. It's not handicapped accessible. You can't do that. And I've been on the board. This is now entering my 4th term. Thank you and have a good everybody.
Thank you so much, Pat. Next up would be Raphael Mekalov. I guess Raphael's not here this evening. Next up is Elizabeth Newton. Elizabeth.
Hello, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Newton. I've lived in Forest Hills for 23 years. I am the co-chair of the Consumer Affairs, Economic Development, and Public Committee. My co-chair is Steve Metz. You've heard from him. I guess you forgot to mention that, Steve, huh?
A long day.
I have been on the community board, I think, since 2019. So welcome all new members.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Next up is Tanya Paget. Tanya?
Hi, everybody. I'm Tanya. I am the Secretary of Administration on the Executive Board. I live in Forest Hills, and my favorite park is Forest Park, but Flushing Meadow is a very close runner-up. Let's see, what else? I think that's mostly it. Welcome, everybody. So glad that you're here. That's
Thank you, Tanya. Next up is Howard Pollack. Howard, good evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to be here on my first meeting. My name is Howard Pollack. I'm a Forest Hills resident, and I love Flushing Meadow Park. I love Cunningham, but my heart belongs to McDonald.
Thank you so much. Next up is Diana Rockanayev. Diana Rockanayev. Christine, do you see Diana on our list this evening?
No, I don't see her, Heather.
All right, thank you so much. Next up will be Sherry Rolnick. Sherry? Do you see Sherry either? Okay, then next up is Gladys Sandoval.
Oh,
All
Gladys.
right, next up, Katrina Schneiderman.
Hi, how are you? My name's Katrina. This is my first board meeting. I live on the border of Forest Hills, and I would say my favorite park is Forest Park. It's nice to be here.
Thank you so much, Katrina. Next up, David Schneier.
Hi, David Schneier. I've been on the board since 2007. I like all the parks, but Yellowstone Park is my little patch of nature a block away, so I'm partial.
I understand that proximity is important. Thank you so much, David. Next up is Jean Silva. I think we know the answer to this question. Go ahead, Jean.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the new members. I am also with many titles, and one of them is Parks Chair for Community Board 6. I've been in Forest Hills now for over 47 years. I've been on the board for 10 years. I have a lot of favorite parks, but I also happen to be the president of Flushing Meadow Corona Park Conservancy. And it was nice to hear from all of you Forest Hills, but we all have our local parks. And please, you were involved with Community Board 6, keep in touch with me with your local community board parks. Let me know what's going on. And congratulations to all the new members.
Thank you so much, Jean. Next up, Teresa Simmons.
Hello, everyone. My name is Teresa. I've been living in the Forest Hills, Yellowstone Boulevard for about 19 years now. I've been on the board for 1 year. My favorite park is also McDonald Park, but my local park, I also enjoy Yellowstone Park as well. Welcome, new members.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Next up is Robert Tamayev. Christine, do we have Robert this evening?
I do see Robert's name. Let me find him. He's muted. Let me see if I can unmute him. I sent him a request to unmute, so if you want to come back to him.
That would be great. Next up, Irina Tamayeva. Do we have Irina?
I don't see Irina.
I'm talking too fast tonight. You'll have to forgive me. Martha Tucker.
Hi, this is Martha.
Hi, Martha.
I've been on a community board for a year, and I just enjoyed just being an active member in our community. So thank you very much again. My favorite park is Forest Park. I love hiking, I love running, and I love getting lost for hours in there in the many trails. And I've been doing it ever since I was a kid. So that's where my heart is.
Thank you so much, Martha. Next up, Susan Wanderman. Susan.
There we go. Hi, I'm Sue. I live in Forest Hills on the north side of Queens Boulevard. My favorite park is McDonald Park, but I want to say we are so fortunate to have so many nice parks all around us.
I couldn't agree with you more, Susan. Thank you. Next up is Alexa Weitzman. Alexa, good evening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexa. I live in Forest Hills, and I love all the parks that everyone mentioned, but I will say Yellowstone is where I took my kid. He's, when he was younger, and where his tooth was knocked out. And so it gave him his character of having a one tooth, but it's growing in finally. So I feel like the stage is kind of lost for running around and tripping at playgrounds, but I loved that park. It has everything, and welcome to all the new members.
Thank you so much, Alexa. Next up, Joan Weston. Joan.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I was born and raised on the border of Rico Park and Forest Hills, and I lived in Forest Hills since I got married, and I raised my children here. I've been on the community board, I think this will be 8 years. And my favorite park is one that hasn't been mentioned yet. It's Juniper Valley. It has a lot of life and action over there.
Thank you so much, Joan. Good evening. Next up is Brentley Winstead. Brentley, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. This is my first meeting, and I'm really excited to be on the board. I just moved to Forest Hills about 2 years ago, and I would say we have a lot of favorite parks, and there were a lot of them mentioned, but I would say mine is actually a green space on Greenway Terrace. It's a really quiet little green space, and there's always a nice place to sit, just relax and enjoy the weather. So thank you.
Thank you, Brentley. Next up, Edwin Wong. Edwin, good evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Edwin Wong. Welcome to the new members. Great seeing the returning members. I've lived in Forest Hills for about a little over 15 years, serving in my 8th year, 4th term on the community board. And my favorite park is Flushing Meadows Corona Park, with McDonald Park as a close second.
Thank you so much, Edwin. Daniel Yakubov, are you with us this evening? Is he on the list, Christine? Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. Next up is Titi Yasukawa. Titi, good evening.
Hello, and nice to meet everyone this evening. I'm Titi Yasukawa. I live in Forest Hills. I've been in Forest Hills for more than 15 years. My favorite park in terms of walking and meeting dogs is Flushing Meadows Corona Park, as well as Forest Park. And for just hanging out, it's I think it's Flagstaff Park and also Hawthorne Park in the gardens.
Thank you so much, TT. And my name is Heather Beers Dimitriadis. I have lived in this community since 2000, so it's been about 22 years. Love living here. I live in Regal Park. And one of my favorite parks is actually Painter's Playground. It is where my kids would play when they got out of school, when they attended PS 174. And it was just such a joyful little place for all of these kids to play. So that's why it's one of my favorites. We want to move on to the public comment part of the evening now. We always put public comment towards the top of the meeting. So as always, individual speakers get 3 minutes. If you're here with an organization, you can speak for 5 minutes. My timekeeper, Mark Laster, is having some technical challenges, so I'm going to play timekeeper. So our first speaker tonight is actually from the Forest Hills Green Team, Matt Sultan. Do we have Matt on the list, Christine Peter?
Yes, he was promoted, so he should be able to speak now.
Okay.
Yep. Hello.
Okay, Matt, the floor is yours, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you for being here tonight.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so I'm part of the Forest Hills Green Team, and we have some updates. So the food scrap drop-off site that we run in partnership with Common Point Queens and the Queens Botanical Garden is running now weekly for food scrap drop-off on Sundays from about 10 to 1. It's right by Common Point, which is 6709 108th Street. So if you come by, you can drop off your food scraps and you can get a free COVID test kit. And we'll give you a free little small bag of compost from the Queens Botanical Garden while supplies last. So we are doing pretty well with that. And we've had some good outreach with the community there. We're continuing our partnerships with a local local civic groups with Assemblyman Hevesey's office in maintaining McDonald Park as Stephen Melnick recuperates. So please hold the date on Sunday, April 24th, where we have tentatively planned our next activity. We'll send out more details when we have them. We continue to plan presentations at local schools regarding climate change after our successful presentations at PS 196, where we had a group of 4th and 5th graders at the Reformed Temple of Forest Hills. We are currently planning to reach out to PS 174 and PS 144. So if anyone's interested in learning more about these presentations, you can email us at FHGTINC @gmail.com. We want to thank CB6 Chair Heather for testifying last month at the City Council Sanitation Committee meeting against Mayor Adams' proposed cuts to the compost program. The Forest Hills Green Team is working with other organizations to push back against these cuts because we feel that they're so vital to the sanitation process and getting food scraps in. We were happy to see the City Council's proposed budget does restore these funds, but we need to continue to let our elected officials know to assure that these cuts do not go through. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can email us at the same email, fhgtinc@gmail.com. And the Forest Hills Green Team has reserved Saturday, June 4th from 12 to 2 to partner with parks to identify local tree pits that need to be mulched and maintained. So we'll send out more details about that. Our next meeting, we meet the third Monday of every month virtually from 6 to 7. So our next meeting is next Monday, April 18th. And if you're interested, it's the same email address and you can just reach out. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for everything you do in your community. And yes, in the community, we were glad to stand with not just your organization, but with Compost Collective and other organizations. We believe that composting, we see the mandate in our community with the work that you are doing and the Compost Collective is doing. And we are also concerned about the jobs that could be lost should this program not be funded fully. So thank you, Matt, so much for your service on that committee to our community. And also thank you for being here tonight. Next up is Pedro Rodriguez. Pedro, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm just trying to, there you are in my screen. Okay, Pedro, you're going to have 3 minutes and I'll let you know when you get to 30 seconds left. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Pedro Rodriguez, and I live here in Forest Hills by 67 Road. I'm here mostly to talk about Austin. So, as I'm sure everyone's kind of aware of the issues that Austin's have right now. Every time that I'm walking through it, it's very claustrophobic. Everyone's pretty cramped together. The sidewalks are way too small. People are with wheelchairs, with mobility scooters, are usually can't really get around there, especially when it's really crowded. Whenever the trash gets put out on the sidewalk, the sidewalks get even shorter, so then you have even more conflicts between people. Forget about any sort of like 6 feet separation or anything like that. And it's not great. To make things worse, the street is always clogged with traffic. The air's polluted. Everyone's honking. The buses get stuck. Trucks and cars that will park or block the bus stops, causing people to have to go into the street to get into the buses. Cars with loud pipes are racing down it, pretty much hurting everyone's eardrums, which is not great for our health. Additionally, we're getting more development in the area, as everyone knows, and which is great. More people, more housing, cheaper housing. It's great for everyone. But all of these people are going to be going to Austin, and Austin is already full, and all the sidewalks are just too small. Austin 71st area is kind of our downtown, so we can't really let it continue to degrade like this. Luckily, there is a solution that has been proven to work, and this pedestrianization. We have to expand the sidewalks. The sidewalks need to be bigger. That is pretty much the limiting factor on Austin right now. It's just how big the sidewalks are, and we need to discourage driving as much as possible. I know. Essentially, the more cars are on Austin, the more traffic there's going to be. The more traffic is going to be, the more trucks are going to be delayed, buses are going to be delayed, and everything else. We also need on-street containers for business trash. We can't really have all this trash in the sidewalks. Every time we have trash there, that's a hazard. People can trip. I've seen people trip, and that's just not great. We know that the Department of Sanitation is currently running a program called the Clean Curse program, and which is supposed to actually fix this problem, and we should apply for that. I know in the past some businesses have fought against the idea. This tends to happen because businesses overestimate how many people drive to them, while massively underestimating how many people walk or bike or take transit to their businesses. So they usually put a lot of pushback on this. However, study after study has shown that pedestrianization leads to more business because it leads to more foot traffic, and more foot traffic, the more business you get. Pretty obvious. And at the end of the day, locals visit local stores more often than drivers drive from far away, and that's just how that always works. So we need to pedestrianize Austin. That will be good for our health. It will be good for our community, for our businesses, for the city as a whole, and it will turn Austin from a simple congested business area to a destination. Pretty much people from all over the place will go to Austin if we could really make it a pleasant place to be in. And I have included some links with my written statements on studies and as well as articles that show the benefits of it. Again, it is our downtown. We can't really let it continue to degrade like this. It is not good for our health. It's not good for anyone. So we need to fix it.
Pedro, thank you, and it's time. But I thank you so much for your comments. Pedestrianizing places is not a foreign concept. In the 80s, England pedestrianized Leicester Square. In 2009, Florence pedestrianized a huge chunk of their city center. We've seen former mayors of the city pedestrianize various squares from Herald Square to Union Square to Times Square. So it's not a foreign concept, but it is something that we as a board have discussed ever so slightly, but we understand your concerns. Thank you for coming tonight. We will include your letter along with the links that you have provided to the board via Christine, I'm sure. We will include those in our minutes for this meeting, and that will get distributed to our board a couple weeks prior to this meeting. So they will get that material. So thank you for providing it. Thank you for coming this evening. We really appreciate your input.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great ening. Next up, as we do, it is time to approve the minutes from our March meeting. Were there any concerns upon review of the minutes, or do I have, and if not, can I get a motion to approve?
Approve. I do, Howie.
Can I get a second to Howie, please?
I do.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, unmute yourselves, say aye.
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 Thank you all so much. We have an addition to our agenda, as can happen. Our Councilmember Lynn Shulman is here tonight. She wants to talk to us about a special street co-naming that will be going before the City Council shortly at the start of May. She's going to be giving us some information on the street co-naming, and that it will be voted on by the Transportation Committee at their meeting on April 28th. So Lynn, I'm going to give you the floor. Thank you, Lynn, for coming this evening.
Thank you very much. I apologize in advance. My throat's still a little raspy. I'm just getting over COVID, and I want to thank the board for checking in on me and all that. I also want to welcome and congratulate all the new board members. I'm very excited to have you on. This is great, and it's a real diverse group of people, and so it's very exciting, and I'm really glad about that. Heather, I just want to give a little bit of an update on a couple of things first. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Very quickly, I want to let folks know that tomorrow is the stated at the city council meeting. They're going to vote on the development for 9881 Queens Boulevard, which I'm really happy that after a lot of negotiation with the community board and the borough president, that they're offering deeply affordable housing, among other things. They've met almost every condition of the community board and the borough president, and I'm very excited about doing this tomorrow. So that's going to be voted on. So I just want to let folks know about that. The budget negotiations, I want to let folks know, by the way, Forest Hills Green Team, I want to thank you. I've been partnering, as people know, with Andy Hevesy on cleaning the McDonald Park and all of that. But I'm on the budget negotiating team, and we are pushing back greatly to make sure that we have composting. So I want folks to know about that. And that's a big issue for me. And we're trying to look into getting, there's some pilot programs involving composting that sanitation is doing, and we're trying to see if we can get that for our community. So I just want my staff is working on that. I have Kevin McAleer from my staff is going to be it comes to every board meeting. So he's here tonight to bring stuff back. And we're looking at putting back a lot of the monies that the mayor took out of the budget. The preliminary budget response, I'll send to the board the link to that so you can see that, and we all had a hand in that, and the theme is equity, so I just wanted to mention that. I did meet with the school construction authority. I know, I met with Heather and with Frank a while back. We talked about capacity in the schools, and they agree that that's an issue, so they're going to work with us on that, so I'm very excited about that too. So now it's for the street naming. So there's an individual named Greg Stein who I don't know if Danny Drum is here. Former council member Danny Drum is somebody that he knew, but he was very active. He was a Forest Hills resident. He passed away. I don't know if it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago from cancer at a relatively young age. He was very active he lived in our community. He was very active. He was on the board of the AIDS Center of Queens County for 20 plus years. He was active in all of the LGBTQ and Pride events in Queens, and he was very active in Our Lady Queen of Martyrs, where he taught. So that's somebody I wanted to put forth in terms of a street naming, and Danny Drum and I had talked about that a while back. So that's something that I want to propose. And by the way, the deadline to do it is May 1st. So I'm glad that the committee is meeting on the 28th, because we actually need a letter from the board, if that's possible, to do that. So we also are working on a street naming for Joe Hennessy, which is already in the works. So those two will come before the council in June if we approve this letter at the committee meeting. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Schulman. We appreciate, the opportunity to partner with you on all these issues that we see. We're thankful for your advocacy with the SCA. We're thankful for your advocacy on the composting and pushing the development at 9881 to get where it needed to be. We appreciate the responsiveness there. I don't see former Councilmember Danny Drum here tonight at this time. I checked the list. Christine, have you seen him at all? Okay, great. We both don't see him. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But after the meeting on the 28th, I can guarantee you our office staff is very professional. They're very quick. They will quickly turn that letter around to you and get everything that you need for your straight and square for the 2nd of May. Okay?
No, thank you very much. What?
Thank you. No, thank you so much, and appreciate you coming out, and wish you a very speedy recovery from COVID.
Thank you. And I love this board, and if I can say my parks, because I want to participate in this exercise.
Sure,
So when I was growing up, I grew up a couple of blocks from, because I grew up in Forest Hills, I grew up a couple of blocks from Yellowstone Park. So that was my favorite park back then. But now I live across the street from McDonald Park, and that is my favorite park. And I remember when we had the microblast that came through and knocked down almost every single tree. It was basically flat land, and it's so beautiful now with all the trees that have come back and everything else. And I really feel it's very important to maintain that. And I look forward to working with all the new board members. Like I said, said, I'm very excited to be working with you and to be working with Heather. I want to thank you for your leadership on the board and everybody else. And thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I appreciate that. And I will come every once in a while, and I will come when we do in person. Oh, I have an update for you. In the state budget, it was voted that you could do hybrid. There's a 60-day window in which you can actually continue to do virtual meetings. The council today, I learned I had a meeting, the council members had a meeting with the Office of General Counsel, and they told us that there's a 60-day window, so we're going to be operating remotely for that period of time, which will take us through the budget season. But every board, every board is the same. And then after that, there are contingencies, but everybody will be able to do hybrid. You just have to, I can get you the details on that. And our legal counsel is still working with the legal counsel of the state legislature to figure out all of those dynamics. But I just wanted to share that as well.
Appreciate that, council member. And we're grateful for the guidance, because it's been a little tricky going month to month, not knowing how our meetings are supposed to be scheduled. So we sort of appreciate at least having a 60-day runway to sort of play with here. So thank you so much for that. I had one hand raised, Pat Morgan. Did you have a question or a statement, Pat?
Yes, I'm so glad your health is improving, Lynn. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
My questions are, can you give an idea of what streets are going to be named for the honorarium for these individuals?
Heather, you have the one for, I don't have the exact, you have the one for both of them there? Or Frank?
I don't have
have
it in
that?
front of me right now.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, Pat, what we can do is we can get back to you and the board as to what streets those are. We can make sure that we just include those as an aside in the minutes. Christine, does that work? Okay, we can do that for you. We just don't have that in front of us at this time. I'm sorry.
Okay, and with tomorrow's vote on the Trilon triangle, are they going to be incorporating parts of the Trilon movie theater and parts of the Tower Diner into the design of the?
They're gonna try to do that. The borough president and I are not, we're not sure if that they are going to try to do that. They're going to try to do a number of things. They are going to try to do that. We've also made arrangements to get to take the facade and or in the process of making arrangements to give the facade over to Michael Perlman, who's going to keep them and store them. So we're working on that as well.
And thank you very much, and be well.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more question. It appears from Jean Silva. Jean?
Yes, I'd like to thank Lynn for the great job she would put over on McDonald Park. If anybody's aware of what's happening over there, you now have a complete whole new walking surface. Street completely around has been done over. The tree pits have been done over. They have done a wonderful job. And I just wanted to thank Lynn for her support and help in getting that done. Thank you.
I'm also going to be at some point down the road introducing legislation around how the streets are redone so that the paving is done in a way that's beneficial to everyone.
Thank you so much, Council Member. I believe seeing that there are no more questions. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Again, speedy recovery and have a wonderful holiday season.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you if I could just say quickly, for those who are celebrating Passover, happy Passover. For those who are celebrating Easter, happy Easter. I wish everyone well, and please enjoy the holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to move into the chair's report tonight. It's just a little heavy, but I'm going to try to move quickly, but I will also provide some time for some questions. First, I want to start by saying on the 4th of May, there will be a 1-hour new member CB6 training. It is designed for new members, but it is open for everyone. So if you aren't a new member and want to attend, that's fine. Just reach out to the office. That will be on May 4th, and it will be for 1 hour. Second, starting tomorrow, each of you will begin considering and selecting the committees you would like to serve on next year. Each of you can choose to be on either 2 or 3 committees. We know picking committees can be tricky. A winning strategy that I sort of used when I joined the board was to pick a committee that that I had some expertise on. So that was, I'd been an SLT parent at 2 different schools. So I chose the education committee. And then I chose a committee that would stretch me, that would help me learn more about the community. So I picked what I call the physics of community board, and I picked land use. So if that strategy works for you, that would be great. But we would like you to pick one committee that speaks to your expertise and your understanding of this community. You will also indicate your interest to serve as a chair for a specific committee. To the new members, do not hesitate to step up. Many of you come to this board with previous leadership experience in other civic organizations and local organizations. And so we would not want you to think that because you are a new member, you couldn't raise your hand to become a chair of a committee. You will be sent, oh, and also where appropriate, we're going to have co-chairs for larger committees that do more work. So you will be sent a Google form tomorrow to complete with instructions and complete committee descriptions so that you fully understand the scope of the committee that you are selecting. At the same time, we'll be launching an initiative for members of the public to apply and serve as a public member. Public members can serve on 1 committee only. All these forms are due back Friday, April the 22nd. Now, as we begin this process, the executive committee met a couple weeks ago and reviewed the existing committee list and made a few adjustments, and we just want to review the adjustments with you. We won't go over every committee because that will take us too long, but I'm just going to go over the adjustments. The current Education, Youth, and Library Committee is going to be broken into 2 parts. There will be the Education Youth Committee and the Library Cultural Affairs Committee. That will allow the Education Committee to have a tighter focus on education and youth as we anticipate a variety of things coming up that will require their attention over the next year or 2. The same with libraries. As we know, many of our libraries are going to be getting various upgrades and renovations, and we need to have a nimble committee that will be able to respond to last-minute requests from DDC and Queens Public Libraries, as there will be approvals and so on throughout that process. The next change we made is the Aging Social Services Disabilities Committee has been a very big committee, and they have done an excellent job at handling a lot of subject matter that falls into their bucket. But what we thought would be wise was to break the committee into 2 parts. So there will be the Aging Social Services Disabilities Committee, and the Health, Mental Health, and Substance Abuse Committee. And that also works well and couples well with our council member who is sitting on the Health Committee, who is going to be looking to be making some real inroads there. So I think that just is a natural change that makes sense. We have also tightened the scope of the Public Transportation Committee. That will now be the Transportation, Public Transit, Street Safety Committee, because that more represents the scope of work that this committee has been doing and will be doing going forward. The Veteran Affairs and Public Service Committee, I want to just give a clarification there. Public service will include and cover the following agencies: the NYPD, the FDNY, Con Edison, National Grid, etc., because I know there's probably a couple I'm missing. And then lastly, we have had an ad hoc committee for homelessness. We are now making a full-fledged committee, and it will be called the Committee for Those Without Shelter. And this committee will be working on homelessness and those who are in need of shelter within Community District 6. There are 2 important things to note in addition. The Budget Reconciliation and District Needs Committee will not be a committee that you can select. That committee is composed of chairs and committee members that would be designated to serve on that committee as they work through our budget setting process. Also, the current ad hoc committee, Diversity, Education, Community Engagement, will be put on hold temporarily for 6 months as we work on refining that scope. And I want to say that the work on that committee, this putting it on hold is not a reflection on the success of this committee and what this committee has accomplished. I think if there's one thing that we can take away from the DEES committee and their work is that as a board, it is important for us to look at issues from a full perspective from each and every dimension and angle. So for example, when I was talking about Committee for Those Without Shelter, we would not just be looking at how the people who live in our co-ops and homes and apartments are affected by those who are without shelter. We would also be considering those that find shelter on our benches and on our streets and how these decisions will forward their life and improve their lives as well. And that was a wonderful lesson we learned. So I don't want anyone to think that there weren't wonderful lessons learned through this committee. And I just wanted to highlight one of them. So I've now dumped a pile of information into your lap. I want to make sure there aren't any questions. And if you don't have questions now, you can ask questions later. You can email myself, you can email Christine, and we will help you through these questions. We're here for you. So any hands? Christine, do you see any hands? I don't.
Yeah, TT.
Okay. TT, good evening, TT.
Hello, I just wanted to confirm. So when you say that a committee is going to be split, does that mean it's going to be two separate committees or are they subcommittees of each other?
They will be two separate committees. In one situation, we did discuss one of the committees being a subcommittee, but we just felt it would make more sense that we would split and make two separate committees that would allow them to have a real refined scope.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Real
Okay.
quick, this is Kendra. What
Yes.
all the information about how many times a month each committee would meet and like what the chair's responsibilities will be and all of that will be in that document, the Google Doc?
I can include in the letter sort of what the chair's responsibilities are for sure. The minimum expectation typically for committees on the community board is to meet once a quarter. So that would be at least 4 meetings. Now we do have some committees like Aging Social Services that has been able to maintain a monthly meeting, typically kept to about 1 hour. But sometimes our meetings, Kendra, it's a great question, have a lot to do with things that we have to vote on. So for example, land use may not have to meet for a month or so, and then all of a sudden we have a lot that's hit us because it comes to us from city planning, for example. So some scheduling is rather unpredictable. So that is something to keep in your mind. And Kendra, you can reach, if you want to, you can contact me offline and we can set up a time to talk through some of this. Okay?
Heather,
thank
can
you so much.
That was
Heather,
a
this
great
is
question.
Sabrina. My video is off. May I ask you a question?
Yes, you may, of course.
My question is, and it's probably along the lines of what just Kendra just asked, and I'm sure offline you can answer this for me. However, the 2 committees that we have to choose, it's on top of the Wednesday meeting that we have bi-weekly, correct?
Yes.
Right.
So the minimum, typically people would normally serve on 3 committees. We wanted to help people better focus their efforts and their talents on serving on 2 committees. We understand some people have bandwidth to take on 3. We don't want to limit people, but we also want to be fair to people as well. We want to get the best out of you and not stress you out. So we feel like having you serve on at least 2 committees is helpful. But again, they don't meet every month. Some committees don't have a need to do that. Some committees do. Christine, I see your hand. Oh, go ahead, Serena.
So just like Kendra's question, the committees, like I mean, I heard a little bit about them, but the description of each committee is available for us to look at. And by when do we have to choose? And that's my last question.
It'll be the deadline is the 22nd of April. Friday. It'll be a week from Friday. Friday the 22nd, I believe. So you'll just have to get them back to me by then. And like I said before, you can email me or Christine, and we can answer any questions that you have, any additional, because I'm sure something's going to come to you. It normally does when you're getting acclimated.
Thank you so
Christine,
much.
very welcome. Have a great evening, Christine.
I just wanted to clarify that the community board meetings are once a month only. So the new members will have another meeting in 2 weeks, but only because it's a new member orientation. After that, you only required, the community board meeting that you're required to attend is only once a month.
That is correct. Thank you so much, Christine. Seeing no more questions, I just want to close out my report by saying that two of the things that make me proud to be a member of this board is our transparency and how we center the public's concern and the public's comments in our work. Recent ongoing criticism on social media of the Trilon Tower Diner project, we can fully see tonight that our council member is really working very hard to meet the needs and concerns of this community and also bring in affordable housing. But the recent criticism is unfortunately uninformed, and it is very unfortunate. We all recognize that land use decisions are complex. We know that ULURP can be very complex. But given how open that entire process was to the public, there should be very little confusion. As always, whenever there is confusion to any member of the public, any member of this board, we ask you to reach out to our office. And we will answer any email. You can phone them, you can email them, but we are here to serve this community, and we will always provide clarification if there is any confusion. Okay? Next up is our district manager's report from Frank Galuccio.
I think I can make it through. This is not really Frank speaking, it's my brother, I think. I've been out all week with some crazy bad cold and et cetera. I didn't have COVID, but I think I had all the symptoms of it anyway. Just to clarify a couple of things Heather said. There are two orientations for the new members. We have one, and so does Borough Hall have one. Okay, the Borough Hall one, I believe it'll be virtual and in person. Ours is virtual, and I believe ours is the 4th of May. And Heather and I, and actually Alexa started it last year, our former past chair, we put together a bunch of simple notes that can be said in about an hour. And I am, and my office staff is, and so is Heather, and the executive board even, we're always around. I understand that you guys are all volunteers, and there's, as Heather just said, we all have families and jobs, et cetera, and things to do. So we understand if you can make it, if you can't make it, just let us know. That's all we ask. I wish this could be in person, but you heard our council members say that, and I just heard about this yesterday, spoke to Heather about it this morning, while I still had my voice. They're telling us that this virtual might go through 2024. Now, there's nothing carved in stone yet, because this law will affect the entire New York State. It's just not little old us in Forest Hills and Regal Park. So when they work it all out, they'll let us know. But for the next 2 months, we will be virtual. Committee meetings and our general meeting. I'm hoping, so is Heather hoping, that maybe, and I don't know the city, you know how it works, it's crazy sometimes, that by the end of the summer or during the summer, they will have a set of rules and regulations for us of how we're supposed to do this, because it is charter mandated, and we do follow the charter. That's really important. For the new members, back to the new members, just so you know, I haven't met last year's members yet, or the year before new members yet. So we're kind of all in the same boat at the same time, but we are here for you. We are the paid staff for City of New York. You guys are volunteers, and we love you for that so much. Every community should be as strong as CB6. The passion is unbelievable that comes through my office from my board, and I say my board. And I really appreciate it. I know for a fact, and because I deal with the other 14 boards, and I'll probably get in trouble for this, but you know what? CB6 is on top of the heap. We really are, and we're out there. There are things we do that I love. There are things that just makes me cringe, and Heather will tell you, and Alexa will tell you. But you know what? We get things done. We are proactive. We are not reactive. Most of the times, because we are proactive, we do get an answer, and that means a lot. I have a great transportation committee. All my committees are absolutely wonderful. We have a great precinct council across the board. Everybody works hand in hand. And that's what we're about. As Heather said, we are transparent and we push and we push and we push. Whether we agree or disagree, we know that the bottom line is that we are all for this community. Like you all identified a park, even though some of them weren't in CB6. I get it. It's just our love for Queens. So thank you for volunteering again. Thank you for coming tonight. There'll be, and I can't wait to meet everybody in person. Seriously, I know you're all probably saying the same thing. This is difficult. It really is. But we got through COVID, and hopefully I'll get through this crazy voice thing. But thank you again. I don't want to take up too much time before I lost my voice. So I'm shutting down.
Thank you so much, District Manager Frank. Okay, next, Christine. Any questions or issues? We're going to finish up attendance here. Are there any people that you need to check on?
Yeah, so I think I saw Diana come in. Can you just confirm that you're here, Diana? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Diana?
Here's
You're on
some
my list.
crazy things. I couldn't lift my foot up all day, which is why I was here.
It was an error. I apologize, but I just wanted to say hello and good evening.
Okay.
Oh, good. Oh, good. You're here. Okay,
Okay, I
great.
didn't see Sherry. If I call your name, that means I didn't see you. So if you're here, just confirm that you're here so that we can mark you present. Sherry Rolnick, Gladys Sandoval, Herb Shanout, Robert Temiev, I saw. Can you confirm if you're here? I don't see him anymore. Okay. Irina Tamieva, Daniel Yakubov, Sheridan Chu, Miriam Burfus. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. The next up is we're going to have a presentation tonight from the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I'd like to introduce Marwa Rigi. Marwa, are you here?
Hi, yes, I am. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Everyone can see my screen, right? Okay, perfect. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Marwa. I'm an outreach coordinator at the Civilian Complaint Review Board. For those of you who may not know, the Civilian Complaint Review Board is a city government agency that investigates, mediates, and administratively prosecutes complaints of police misconduct. The reason why we're called the Civilian Complaint Review Board is because we are staffed entirely by civilians. We are not part of the NYPD. We are our own separate agency to ensure an unbiased that kind of investigation. And the reason, and we're also the largest oversight agency in the country over the largest police force in the country. We're governed by a 15-member board. Those board members are selected by the mayor, by city council, by the police commissioner, and by the public advocate's office. So we know that the NYPD has a very important role in our society, right? They have to serve and protect, they enforce the law, they render aid, and they maintain order. They get the rules and regulations that they have to follow on the job from their patrol guide. And the CCRB also uses this very same patrol guide when we conduct our investigations to determine if police misconduct has occurred. There's 4 categories of police misconduct that we investigate. Those are force, abuse of authority, discourtesy, and offensive language. So we investigate if an officer uses any kind of physical force, whether it's punching a person, kicking them, striking them in any kind of way, using one of their impact weapons, such as their pepper sprays, tasers, nightsticks, and of course, the use of a firearm. Even an officer, just taking their firearm out and pointing it at someone can fall into this category. And what we do is we investigate if that use of force was excessive or unnecessary. Secondly, the second category of police misconduct that we investigate is abuse of authority. So that is when an officer misrepresents their power or influence as a police officer to gain a person's compliance. So this is our largest, our broadest category of misconduct. So I'll just give some examples. Stop, question, and frisks that are unjust, searching people's personal property, their cars, their homes, apartments, vehicles, so on and so forth, without sufficient cause or warrant. Improperly entering a person's property, refusing to identify themselves. So officers have to provide their name and shield number when they are having interactions. So if they go out of their way to conceal their identity or cover their shield number with their hand or a piece of tape, that falls under this category. More examples include an officer threatening to call ICE on someone, forcibly removing someone to a hospital, any kind of sexual misconduct, and of course, bias-based policing and racial profiling. The third category is the discourtesy. So this is if an officer behaves or speaks or gestures in a rude, unprofessional, disrespectful manner. That includes any kind of foul language, the use of profanity, any kind of discourteous conduct, for example, being disrespectful with the person's belongings, stepping on the person's things, kicking things over, so on and so forth. And lastly, any kind of discourteous gestures or actions, such as, for example, giving someone the middle finger. The last category is offensive language. This is very different than an officer, just using general foul language. This is specifically any kind of verbally offensive speech that inappropriately refers to a person's race, religion, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or perceived disability. Even an officer telling someone, go back to wherever you came from, go back to your country, anything, those kinds of phrases, they fall under this category. So yeah. Something else that we investigate is if the Right to Know Act has been violated. So for those of you who may not know, the Right to Know Act is a law that passed in 2018 that outlines things that officers should inform people of during interactions and some rights that people have during these interactions. So there are several bullet points, so I'll just go over those general points. Firstly, an officer should identify themselves. They should provide that person with their name, their rank, command and shield number. They should explain the purpose of the interaction, because police officers can stop a person for many different reasons. But yeah, generally they should be explaining the purpose of that interaction. If an officer wants to search a person, but they don't have justifiable cause, they don't have a warrant, they have to ask for your consent and inform you that you have the right to say no. So you don't have to consent to that kind of search, and they have to let you know that. Another point is that all officers carry business cards with them. This is what their business card looks like. On the front of the card, it'll have their name, shield number, command, rank, that kind of identifying information. And on the back of the card, you'll find those hotlines that you can call, counterterrorism hotline, Crime Stoppers hotline, also how to request body-worn camera footage, and of course, how to make a comment or a complaint. So they don't always have to offer you their business card. However, you have the right to request that. One more thing about the Right to Know Act that I want to mention is that everyone has the right to language access services. So what that means is if a person is stopped by the police and they don't speak English, or let's say they're deaf and they communicate through sign language, that officer has to facilitate what we call language access services, so that person can understand what's going on, in the language that they speak. So they have technology with them that can provide that for them. So yeah. If a person experiences or witnesses police misconduct and would like to file a complaint, there are so many ways a person can do that. They can call our hotline. They can, during our business hours, outside of business hours, they can call 311. They can visit us in person at our office. We're located in Lower Manhattan. They can file a complaint on our website. They can DM us on social media. We are currently on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They can mail a complaint into our office. And lastly, they can file a complaint at any police precinct. All precincts are required to accept CCRB complaints, and they're stocked with complaint forms and postage-free envelopes. I just want to take a moment to clarify who can file a complaint. Anyone can file a complaint, regardless of a person's immigration status. If a person, that's something that we will never ask a complainant or a witness about. So it's not something they should ever have to worry about. A person can file a complaint even if they don't speak English. We have a multilingual staff at the CCRB, but if there's a language that no one on our staff is fluent in, we always can request translators from the city. So that's never an issue. A person can file a complaint regardless of whether or not they're incarcerated. They still can receive the same services. It's just that we would meet them where they are. And lastly, youth can also file a complaint, but with the assistance of a parent or guardian. So when the CCRB receives a complaint, the first step is just to make sure that the complaint is within our jurisdiction. And if it is, the CCRB will conduct an investigation by first interviewing the complainant, and locating and interviewing witnesses, interviewing the officers involved, and police officers must cooperate with the CCRB investigation, and they're required to give a sworn statement. And when it comes to gathering evidence, the CCRB has subpoena power, so we can subpoena any kind of evidence for a person's case. That includes any kind of video evidence, whether it's body-worn camera footage, cell phone footage. If the interaction happened outside a store or a private building or a municipal building, we can subpoena that camera footage, street cameras, dash cams, so any kind of evidence you can think of. And we can also obtain any necessary NYPD documents and records. So once the CCRB's, once the investigators gathered all of this evidence and has interviewed all the necessary parties, they're going to present their findings to a 3-member panel. Those 3 members are from our board, the 15-member board that I mentioned earlier. And they'll go over all the evidence and all the information, and they'll make a final recommendation for disciplinary action. And for the more serious forms of misconduct, we would have an administrative prosecution. So what that looks like is just a public trial where we lay out all of the evidence and all the information and why we made the recommendation for disciplinary action that we did. And I just want to make it clear that the CCRB's prosecutions are not civil or criminal. A person can file a CCRB complaint and take civil or criminal action. And of course, they should consult an attorney for that. I just want to also make sure that I mentioned that we have a civilians assistance unit. So during the entire process, we will speak to the complainant and ask them if they require any kind of services, because we can put them in touch with all kinds of social and mental health support, such as mental health services, food assistance, any legal assistance, even help getting health insurance, and any social services that you can think of that a person may ever need. We assist them with that. And the last thing that I want to talk about is our policy department. So we have a policy department that will put out reports all throughout the year, every single year, where we talk, such as monthly reports, annual reports, and semi-annual reports that will go over the number of complaints we received, what were the outcomes, any kind of information like that. But we also put out issue-based reports, such as report some of the issues when it comes to policing youth. The way that body-worn cameras has improved and strengthened accountability, the use of tasers, and so on and so forth. We have so many great reports on our website. We also have a new database where you can find any existing member of service at the NYPD, whether they are currently active or they've retired, quit, or were fired. You can find all of their information, their CCRB history past the year 2000. How many CCRB complaints they've had against them, what were the findings, what were the ruling, what was the disciplinary action that was taken, that kind of information. So I will say, as a CCRB outreach coordinator, what I do is we give presentations to all kinds of organizations and institutions. That includes any kind of educational institutions, community organizations, organizations that provide services to the homeless, any kind of immigration services, LGBTQ, libraries. So if there's anyone currently in the audience that, as part of a program or a school that would like this kind of presentation, please let me know. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, and please feel free to reach out to me. So I'll stop here and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you
I
so
have a
much.
question. I
If
have a
you could
question,
stop,
although
1 second, Elizabeth. If you could stop sharing your screen, that will make it easier for us to see people asking questions. Thank you so much, Marwa. Elizabeth, I believe that's you. You have the floor.
yeah, I'm just wondering, will a copy of the slide that you provided or you presented tonight, is that available?
I can provide a shortened version, but it'll still have the main information and services that
That would be great if we can get that. I mean, I would like to have a copy of your slide, if that's possible. I think your information is very important.
Thank you. Yes, I will definitely share that. Thank you so much.
Marwa, you could just send that to the office, to Christine, who coordinated with you for this meeting today. And if you have any issues, you could send it to me as well.
Okay.
Any
great.
other questions? Thank you.
Yeah, Heather,
Any
we
other
have
questions?
Kendra,
There's a few
Pat,
hands
and
up.
then Alexa.
Okay. Okay, so Peter, you have a question, and then Alexa Weitzman, you're on board.
I would
You're
just
on
tell
deck.
you that, well, actually, now it's Pat, Alexa, and Kendra.
Okay, thank you. So Pat first.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to know, is CCRB only for uniformed police officers, or does it include civilian personnel who work for the police department? And is it only for members of the NYPD, or does it involve, such as if an individual needs to make a complaint against Bridge and Tunnel or MTA or Long Island Railroad Police? Does it include that? Thank you.
Or even a state trooper, just to throw that in there.
That's a really great. Sorry. Okay, that's a really great question. So our jurisdiction is only members of service at the NYPD. So what that means is anyone pretty much permitted to carry a gun. So there are already other departments within the NYPD itself that do investigate other matters, such as their civilian personnel, or even, let's say, complaints about an officer committing a crime or something like, there's internal affairs, chief of departments. So that definitely, if anyone is has had an issue and wants to file a complaint about these kind of issues, definitely reach out to your local precinct or a precinct council meeting. As far as the other agencies, so let's say state trooper or MCA officer, so those as well, we cannot invest. They're not within our jurisdiction. However, if someone files a complaint about those members of those other agencies, we will still take the complaint, but we will transfer it to whichever agency can investigate it, and then we notify you that we did that. Because there's definitely other agencies that exist that can investigate complaints about those other agencies.
Thank you so much. Next up is Alexa Weitzman.
Thank you. When the CCRB does its investigations, are there any documents or records that the NYPD can keep from the CCRB, keep confidential on their part?
That's a great question. So if it's relevant to a case, then we have the ability to take to request that information and have that information for the case.
And they do provide it?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Alexa. Next up is Kendra. Kendra, good evening.
Just real quick, and thank you, Elizabeth, for asking for those slides too, because I think.
Kendra, you're up next.
You guys hear me?
You had broken up. You're back.
Kendra Clark.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
So are the reports broken out like by CB6, like by districts too? And then I think my question for Heather is, do we review those reports when it pertains to this district and have feedback and things like that? Or is that not something the board does?
what I can say for Community Board 6 is I have not looked into those reports. I happen to love reports and data. I'm a real data nerd, but we have not. But that's a great question, and it may be something to consider further down the future. One of the other things that we're lucky to have in this district is also a precinct council that I would believe would also be very interested in that information as well. But I'll put the other question to you, Marwa, in regards to how those reports are broken down. If you could speak to that.
Another great question. All these are great questions. So so at the most we can break them. They're broken up by precinct. So as long as you know the precincts that cover this community board, then you can find that information. In fact, we have a complaint activity map that is just a map of all the precincts, and if you hover over a specific precinct, it'll tell you how many complaints for a specific year. You can select any year that you want. So let's say 2020, it'll tell you how many complaints were filed in that precinct, how many of those complaints included allegations of force, abuse of authority, discourtesy, offensive language, what's the number of what's the size of the population in that precinct, and other information like that. But that's how we break down for a precinct. But they also have for borough, for they have so many. All the data that we have on our website is it's very thorough, and there's so many ways that you can categorize it by borough, by place, by neighborhood, by these kinds of things. So I definitely recommend exploring the policy tab on our website, and you can find all that information.
Okay, we have two final questions. The first one from new board member Karen Imus, and then I'm sure a follow-up from Pat Morgan. Thank you. Karen, go ahead.
I think
Good
Frank
evening.
also
Thank
has a
you for
question.
your presentation. Oh. Sorry, do you want me to go ahead with the question?
Yes, please.
Thank you for thanks for the presentation. Can you speak to the CCRB's annual budget, and if there are any implications with the mayor's proposed budget for the next fiscal year?
Another great question. That I can have my the director of intergovernmental affairs to share that information specifically, about what's what ended up being allocated to the CCRB and compared to last year's budget, and any other information like that. That I can't provide at this time, but I can definitely have her send that over.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick comment on that is I think the 3% across the board agency cut, which is the sort of efficiencies across the city, has implications for every agency. But I would imagine with some of the scope that the CCRB has expanded due to some legislation passed last year, that some of these cuts may actually have some impact on your agency's ability to do their work. Hopefully not, but something to keep in mind.
Thank you for pointing that out, because it has. So, but I will definitely have her share that information just to give you the specifics. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Pat Morgan. Pat, go ahead.
Nice. When I took the Citizens Police Academy a number of years ago, one of the events included, one of the classrooms included a sergeant from Internal Affairs coming and discussing how the Internal Affairs Department works and other things. And one of the things that he had mentioned was that a lot of people make phone calls and make reports out of retaliation against police officers and make allegations that after full investigations are completely untrue. And too many people do use that as a means of taking out their aggressions and ruining a police officer's life. And the CCRB also, I know, finds that police officers, after thorough investigation, have not committed those acts that were alleged, against them. That is correct, isn't that true?
Yes, it is. So one of the outcomes so we have 4 in total outcomes to CCRB investigations. and the one that you're referring to is unfounded. So that's when, after the investigation is concluded, all the evidence indicates that the officer did not engage in the misconduct that was alleged, and then after that, the case is closed. Like, it's ruled as unfounded. So yeah.
So there are ways of a police officer having their day in the trial room and other places within the police department with all of the allegations thrown out. And what happens to the individual who makes the false allegation?
There's nothing that we can do at the CCRB, nothing in the city charter or the, in our jurisdiction that we can, when it comes to if a civilian files, if a person files a complaint and it turns out that they were unfounded. But at least for the officer, once we can clear their name, like that it was unfounded, what happened, the evidence proves that it didn't happen, and the case is closed. But yeah, at this time, there's nothing that we do about the people that file these kinds of complaints.
If I may
It's a
say,
wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing when a police officer has not been found to be guilty of those charges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pat. Frank DeLucio, I believe you have a point.
I just wanted a point of clarification. Yeah, I'm on, right? Point of clarification for Kendra. The community board training via Borough Hall and via CB6 will clarify exactly our role, what we're involved with. For example, city budget, planning and zoning, quality of life issues. So we wouldn't necessarily be looking at CCRB reports. We do know we have a very good rapport with the 112 precinct. Community Affairs, our captain, meets with me regularly at our cabinet meeting. And I also want to thank Mara there, right, for coming to the district managers meeting over in Borough Hall. It was very informative, and you got great reviews because a lot of people are really misinformed. So that's why I wanted you to come tonight to just to clarify this up. Thank you. And Kendra, if you have any questions, give me a buzz tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that. So kind of on the flip side of what Pat was saying, and only because we're talking about mental health, substance use, and homelessness. Like on the flip side, the CCRB, if they do find that this was true, often NYPD doesn't end up doing anything because they have qualified immunity, right? So I think as a community, we should know, right, if this is happening in our community, and we should stand up against it happening, especially really understanding mental health and the over policing of mental health and substance use and homelessness. So I think that was just why I was asking that. And I'm happy that we have both sides.
It's a good point, and we do have committees set up for that exact reason. So we do cover ourselves on that. We've been doing this a while. Yeah.
Kendra, thank you so much. And Frank, appreciate the clarification. Marwa, thank you so much for coming and really providing some real clarification on this. Wish you well. Have a great evening. I will give you back the rest of it because we have to move on. We're not ready to go just yet. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for giving me your time. I hope everyone has a great rest of their night and happy holidays. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Next up will be our Consumer Affairs, Economic Development, and Small Business Report from Elizabeth Newton. To new board members, we have a report from this committee typically every month where we do review and approve or deny liquor license, new liquor licenses and liquor license renewals. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody. Heather, if it's okay with you, I will go through the renewals that we have. We have a total of 7 renewals. We have 2 new applications, one a de facto new application. Is that okay with you, Heather?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. This is going to be a relatively quick report because we only have 2 new applications. There are 7 renewals. They are from 7 restaurants that are staples in our community, that has been in our community for quite some time. And there are no complaints received about any of these restaurants. The Rosalia Pizza, that's located at 10315 Queens Boulevard in Forest Hills. They have submitted a renewal application. By the way, they are also opening up another pizzeria in Bayside. The second one is Tu Casa Restaurant. No complaints from 112. They are located right on Queens Boulevard, and in fact, they're a block across the boulevard from me. They have great sangria, by the way. So stop by, have their sangria, especially since the governor has now said that we can take out alcohol at least for 3 months. So check out their sangria. It's very, very good, and it's fresh, and they do it all from scratch. The third one is the Painting with the Twist, which is located on Metropolitan Avenue. I haven't had the opportunity to go there, but it's very popular. I've passed by, I've seen it. It looks like it's very busy. It's painting and, wine. And that's located at 9714 Metropolitan Avenue in Forest Hills. We have the Avellino Restaurant located at 9701 and 03 64th Avenue in Rego Park. The Diner Bar located at 9745 Queens Boulevard in Rego Park. The American Legion Continental Host, which is at 10715 Metropolitan Avenue. And finally, as of renewal, the Black Sea Fish and Grill, 9536 Queens Boulevard in Rego Park. The committee members have voted to approve the renewal application for these 7 restaurants. As to the new applications, we got a de facto new application. And the reason that I say de facto is because it's really not a new application. It's just a change in ownership. So the wife, Ms. Vargas, of the owner of El Coyote, which is a Mexican restaurant located right here in the heart of Forest Hills, right on Austin Street. And they're located at 7009 Austin Street, Forest Hills. Simply a change in ownership. It's directly across from Fridays. You can take the elevator or the steps up into El Coyote. The husband, who I know and is a very nice gentleman, his wife is being added as an owner because she has a vast knowledge of alcohol and alcohol licenses. So that's the only change. However, I did want to go and just stop by and talk to some of the staff that I know there. And the staff is pretty excited that the wife is going to be the owner. I spoke to the bartender who I know and who has worked there for several years. He says that the staff is complete. The same staff will be there. And pre-pandemic in 2019 and earlier, there used to be a divider between the restaurant and the bar area of El Coyote. They have removed that divider, and I got to tell you, it looks wonderful inside. The tables are spaced out nicely. It looks really good. That was a nice change to see. That is pretty much it. So it's just the ownership. Now the wife is going to be named as the owner of El Coyote. Also, now this is a brand new application. United Artists Midway Movie Theater, which is located right on Queens Boulevard in the heart of Forest Hills. It's right next door to the Chase Bank. It's also next door to, I believe, the Core Meyer building, and at the corner is Mighty Quinn that replaced the Banter restaurant that was there. So they have applied for a liquor license, and they would like to sell beer and wine. So it prompted my attention. I used to go to that movie theater a lot pre-pandemic. And I went in and I chatted with the manager, and I wanted to know exactly how is this going to work logistically? How are they going to do this? So he was a very nice young man, very cooperative and very transparent about them having this liquor license. First of all, the other movie theaters that fall under the umbrella of United Artists in Manhattan already have a liquor license, and they do sell beer and wine. And I say our movie theater because it's right here in Forest Hills, is the last of the theaters that have applied for a liquor license. It's specifically for beer and wine. The manager says it's going to be more beer than wine. It's also going to be the concession stand on the second level. If you have gone to the Midway movie theater, as you walk into the movie theater, the lobby level is the really big concession stand where you have what they call floor service. It will not be there. You have to go up the stairs to the second level where the smaller auditoriums are, where the smaller concession stand is, and that's where the beer and wine will be sold. And they will have licensed bartenders. They will not be the floor servers that you and I normally get our popcorn and our hot dogs and our nachos from. They will be licensed bartenders, and it will not be 7 days a week. It will be from Friday to Sunday, opening up at 12 o'clock. They will also have increased security in that area and monitor the sale of alcohol at the movie theater. You will be allowed to take your beer to the sitting area where you are. You guys may be aware that now when you get your tickets, you can also choose your seat, and you are actually committed to take that particular seat when you go to the movie theater. And I was embarrassed one time. I had chosen a seat, but then I saw something else that I liked better, and I sat there and I had taken the seat of somebody else. So they're very serious about the seat selection. So whatever you choose, you sit there, but you will be allowed to take your beer there. So the good news is that it's Friday through Sunday, licensed bartenders, starts at 12 o'clock. It will not be the floor staffing. It will be professional bartenders, and there will be increased security there. And then I asked about the teenagers mostly coming in, and he said to me that most of the teenage traffic is like on a weekday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when they're cutting classes and going to the movie theater. So rest assured that our 18 and 19-year-olds hopefully will not be sold beer and wine. And that's my report.
Elizabeth, thank you.
And I just want to add that the committee did vote to approve the licenses for El Coyote as well as the United Artists Midway movie theater.
Okay, so this is the part of the meeting where we vote on these liquor licenses renewals. The committees have voted yes on both. To be efficient, we will vote for yes for the new, yes for the renewal. If you have any objections, then you will say yes and no, no and no, wherever you stand on these particular liquor licenses. The only reason you would abstain from voting on a liquor license would be if you profited directly from one of the businesses that we are considering this evening, meaning you either are part owner, you are a partner, or you work there. So otherwise you would vote. And if you do have to abstain when you vote, just let us know which particular restaurant you would have to abstain from. Okay, so we're going to get started. I'm going to call the roll for the vote. Yes,
I see a hand from Pat Morgan. I don't know if that's about liquor licenses.
Yes, it
Do
is.
you have a question? Okay.
I may not be available at the time you call me. May I vote now?
Yes, go ahead, Pat. Go ahead, Christine, and I'll get that for you.
Yes on everything. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you. I think
have a good
David has a question as well, Heather. He has his hand up.
Liquor
Okay, go ahead,
license,
David.
liquor license for Midway, is that 1 year? How long is that liquor license? When will it come before us again for a renewal? I'm sorry, you're muted.
You're muted, Elizabeth.
I'm sorry about that. David, it's every 2 years. Mike, am I right? Frank, am I right on that? It's every 2 years?
Yes, and it's not it's only an application, David. We are not giving them a license. The SLA gives them the license. They are only applying via the community board. There's a big difference there.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I'd like to go ahead and collect the vote. So first up, Michael Arcadi.
Yes, I'm the commander of the American Legion, so I would need to abstain, even though it's a not-for-profit organization. But yes,
Okay.
for all others.
Thank you so much, Michael. Next, Aisia Ione.
Yes, on both.
Thank you. Sadish.
Yes to all.
Okay, Peter Beadle.
Yes to all.
Howard Birnbaum.
Yes to all.
Heidi Chain.
Yes, but on both.
Okay. Sheridan, are you here now? Okay. LT.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Condra Clark.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Alexander Cohen.
Yes to all.
Patrice.
Yes to all.
John.
Yes to all, and thanks for the excellent explanation on the Midway license.
Very welcome, John.
Next is Alejandro Diaz Houston.
Yes to all.
Keith Engel.
I vote yes to all.
Brendan Griffith.
Yes to all.
Karen Imus.
Yes to all.
Serena Jane. Serena. Okay. Mark Laster.
Yes to all.
Beatrice Leong.
Yes to all.
Jonathan.
Yes to all.
Kevin. Okay. Jack Medina.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Dr. Renee.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Stephen Metz.
Aye, aye.
Thank you. Next, Julie Milner.
Yes to all.
Okay. Raphael Nexelov. Okay. Elizabeth Newton.
Yes to all. I'm sorry. Yes to all. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you. Tanya Paget.
Yes to all.
Okay. Howard Pollack.
Aye on all.
Thank you. Diana Rockanayev.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Sherry is not here. Gladys Sandoval is not here. Katrina Schneiderman, did you join us?
Yes to
Okay.
all.
Okay, thank you. David Schneier.
Yes to all.
Okay, Herb's not here. Jean Silva.
Yes to all.
Teresa Simmons. Okay. Robert Tanayev. No. Okay, Irina's not here. Martha Tucker.
Yes to all.
Okay. Susan Wanderman.
Yes to all.
Alexa Weitzman.
Yes, yes.
John Weston.
Yes, yes.
Brentley Winstead. Brentley. Okay. Edwin Wong.
Yes and yes.
Daniel Jacobo is not here. TT.
Both yes.
Okay. And I am a yes for both. Okay. So thank you all so very much. All of our liquor licenses will be renewed and, well, we've approved the applications for new liquor licenses and renewals this evening. Thank you all so much. Next up is the Public Transportation Committee report from Peter Beadle. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, everybody. Peter Beadle again, and I am the co-chair along with Alejandra Diaz Houston of the Public Transportation, Transit, and now Street Safety Committee. So that's always been something that we focused on. We meet, currently we meet monthly on the fourth Thursday of the month. Our last meeting was on March 24th at 7 o'clock. And our agenda that night was to go over to community updates of projects happening in the community, talk about a proposal that we're developing to try and bring in an all-electric kind of hyper-local, inexpensive Uber project so people can get point to point in the neighborhood, and talk about some of the other issues that DOT is addressing. With respect to updates and issues around the neighborhood, street issues, safety issues, I want to start by kind of channeling Frank for a bit. It is really important that if you see any issues out there, please try and do two things. First is report it to 311. You can do that literally by dialing 311 on your phone, or I recommend downloading, if you have a smartphone, the app, where you can report any issues, potholes, illegal parking, broken pavement. You can report all that, even take pictures if you're using the app. When you report that, you're going to get an SR number, a service request number. Please, if you can, email or call the office and let them know about the condition and give them that SR number, because now we can track it. So you can email the office at qn06@cb.nyc.gov or give them a call at 718-263-9250. Discussing it on Facebook or other social medias, you can do that. I do that a lot, but call it into the office and call it into 311, and then we can actually take action on it. Some of the other things that are going on right now, Heather especially has been working with PS 220 over at Horse Harding and 108th Street, and with Halsey Junior High to address some of the street safety issues. There's a lot of issues, particularly during drop-off and pickup of students. And Heather's working with them and the DOT to explore ways that we can make the areas around those schools safer. And I think there's a walkabout with DOT coming up over at 220 soon to try and address some of those issues. So hopefully we'll make some good changes there. We've also been talking to the DOT about some of the issues in the neighborhood, things that people all know about and have driven complaints. So for instance, the intersection of Austin and Yellowstone, we keep going back to DOT to see if they can revisit that intersection. Unfortunately, DOT is not sure that they're able to find a fix. The problem is that intersection is so wide that what can happen is when the lights change red, if you're going like southbound on Yellowstone, but a car has already entered that intersection, it's still crossing by the time that the column going north on Yellowstone wants to turn onto Austin in front of Russell Sage. And so there's been some issues there. We keep going back to DOT, and hopefully they'll find a way to better schedule that. Also, want to make sure everybody's aware, I know it has generated some discussion in the community. There's been a change in the light cycle at the intersection of Continental 71st and Austin Street. The DOT has implemented what's called a Barnes dance. You will notice now that there are 3 phases to the light. 2 of them are for cars, either going up and down 71st Continental or going across on Austin Street. But the 3rd phase is for all pedestrians. So now at that intersection, the 3rd phase, all the cars are stopped, pedestrians can cross at all the corners. And DOT did this because they did a study and found that that intersection, and this kind of speaks to the comment we got from the member of the public at the top of the meeting, there are so many pedestrians in that area that they determined that it would be much safer if pedestrians get an opportunity to just get across the streets without any risk of turning cars interfering with them. So be aware that it'll take a little bit of time for people to adapt to the new phase timings, but hopefully that's going to work out well for us. And another huge issue actually that's coming to the community is that the MTA is working on an overhaul of our bus route system. They tried this a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic, and they really did things from scratch back then, and it caused actually a lot of concern in our community because several of our routes were affected. They've started again. They now have a new draft, and overall, I think they've done a better job of listening to people's complaints. But several of our bus routes are still going to be affected. So I strongly encourage people to Google Queens Bus Redesign. And the first option is going to be the MTA's dedicated web page. And on that web page, you want to pull up the PDF that gives you the detail of the map routes and also all the stops, because one aspect of this redesign is some stops are going to be deleted. The reason the MTA is doing that is because they found, unlike a lot of cities around the country, around the world, we have a lot of stops that are close together. So one effect of that is if the bus is constantly stopping at stops, it slows the bus down. So on one hand, that makes sense. But on the other hand, we live in a community, especially we have a very high percentage of elderly individuals, and having bus stops that are closer together could make a huge difference in somebody's mobility. So pay attention when you look up your specific route. Don't stop at the map. Scroll down to the next page where it lists what stops are being deleted or added, so that you understand how this might affect you. And then the other thing to do on that web page is scroll down and you'll see an opportunity to register for a workshop. You can register for any workshop, but the workshop specifically for this area is May 5th. So especially if you're a regular bus user, I strongly encourage you, or if you know any bus users, please talk to them about this and let them know to go to the Queens Bus Redesign website, check out the routes, and then register for the May 5th workshop so that your feedback can be given. Just real quick, be aware that, so for instance, the Q60 along Queens Boulevard is losing some stops, and we're pushing back on those. The Q23 will continue down 108th Street, but when it hits Queens Boulevard, they're now proposing it makes a left, head out to Union Turnpike, another left, and then head up along Union Turnpike in the direction of St. John's University. Then a new bus, the Q73, which will come out from East Meadows down 73rd Avenue into our neighborhood, will then pick up the rest of the current Q23, meaning the Q73 is now the one that will end up going down Austin to Yellowstone into the lower Forest Gardens and out to Metropolitan. So be aware of this happening. At our next meeting of the Transportation Committee, which is going to be held on Thursday, the 28th of April, we are going to start discussing this as a committee and developing some recommendations so that we can give feedback. If you cannot make the May 5th workshop with the MTA, that same website I've been telling you about, you'll find a link that'll allow you to put in written feedback. It's really important that if this affects you, that you give that feedback to the MTA. So please consider doing that. Okay, real quick, other local updates is that if you live over in the area of Fitchett Street in the Crescents, be advised that DOT has approved a speed reducer, what we call speed bumps, between 65th Road and 65th Drive there on Fitchett. Fitchett has been plagued by people cutting through and speeding through that neighborhood. And I don't know how they do it. We've even had cars flip over. So there is a big request for speed reducers. They've approved the one between 65th Road, 65th Drive. That'll happen when DOT's resources allow it. So between now and sometime in the future. Unfortunately, they couldn't qualify any other spot along Fitchett for a speed reducer. They studied all the different blocks, and this was the only one they could approve it for. Also, over on 64th Road between 102nd Street and Yellowstone, that's been approved for a speed bump. So hopefully we'll see that soon. And then just to finish the report, let people know. So there is a concept called Circuit Ride, and you can Google that as well. This is an all-electric fleet. It's sort of like a hyper-local Uber that is either inexpensive or even free if the funding can be arranged for it. And it serves a discrete area. So for instance, just Community Board 6 or perhaps Council Member Schulman's District 29 would be the geographic area these cars would serve. You'd have an app and you'd be able to request point-to-point rides throughout the community. And this would be a way of getting you to other transit, so you could get to a bus route, a train, or a subway that would better suit you because it's a little bit too far for you to walk. It would increase mobility. I get around a lot by bicycle, but that doesn't work for everybody. So a lot of people then take their cars, and then we have congestion down at the Trader Joe's. Well, if there was a solution where you could get down there to do your shopping and carry your groceries back in this car, that might be, 1, 2, 10 fewer cars on a Saturday morning that have to go to Trader Joe's that way. So we're exploring that, and hopefully we'll have something in the near future to announce if funding and resources can be found to make that possible. I think that covers the report. I'm hoping either in our May or June meetings, we may be able to have a representative of the DOT join us to talk about some other projects that are happening in the area. So watch out for those. Okay, thank you. I think that covers it.
Peter, thank you so much. The Queens Bus redesign meeting that's on May 5th, that is very important. If you know people, if you know families that, for instance, use a particular bus line, let's say to commute within the community, maybe from Common Point down Yellowstone towards, Juneau and so on, they're going to be impacted by some of this redesign. Those are people you should be talking to spread the word. It's on May 5th. Maybe you should order some of that sangria from Tu Casa and set up on your little Zoom call and plug into the Queens Bus redesign and give them your feedback. We'd appreciate it. One other thing, we are in the process of reaching out to the MTA either the end of this week, beginning of next week, and we are going to be asking them to do a survey of the cameras, not just in our stations, but in stations throughout the system, so that we can ensure that our neighbors are kept safe. We want to make sure that the cameras are working so that they continue to be a deterrent and a good fact finder after the fact. So that is something that we will be doing. Latrice, I see you have a question.
Yes, just a quick question for Peter, because I'm also on the transportation committee. I know that we until recently we were meeting the third Thursday of every month, and I know we moved it to the fourth Thursday. Is that a temporary change or permanent?
My understanding is we can always make changes in committee, but right now the intention is that was going to now be our night, was the fourth Thursday.
Okay. Excuse me. All right, I appreciate clarity on that. Thank you very much.
No problem. But we can talk about that in committee if any other changes are needed.
Okay, no problem.
That's all right.
Solid question. Any other questions?
Alexa, I see is.
Alexa, I see your hand.
Yeah, I thanks. I asked last time, and I feel like you said that it was like kind of done, the study about 69th and Jewel, because if I remember, it's such a problematic corridor, and the backup that you're talking about that's happening because of the Austin Yellowstone intersection backs up all the way to Yellowstone Park, creating problems on 69th Road and no one getting through any of the intersections. And I'd love an update on that study, which I think is done and nothing is being done about it. But wondering if we can go back and kind of tinker with asking for another approach to that, being to look back along Yellowstone, because even if there's like an increase, like lines drawn, like some sort of don't block the box at the intersection of 69th and Yellowstone, and maybe even back towards the park, like there's just so much congestion and buildup and honking. And I know that, John said that it's because of that problematic intersection by Russell Sage. And it's just not okay to just be like, well, it's all a problem, but residents that live there just have to deal with it. So I think we just have to make sure that we're continuing to push them to make some sort of positive change. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's really appreciated, and I agree with you 100%. I mean, the feedback from DOT has been that they looked at the problems, and particularly in the area of Grand Central Parkway, up Yellowstone, along both 69th and Jewel. They studied that area, and they found so much throughput, so many cars are coming through that corridor that it makes it extremely difficult for them to make any changes. if they were, for instance, we had asked them for upgrades to maybe increase pedestrian and bicycle safety on those streets because they're major corridors to get to and park. And they would have to delete the parking that's currently along the side of Jewel. And that's a question that for the community, if that's something that we're willing to entertain, and I think we'd have to develop a community feedback process to kind of get feedback from the people that live over there. Another thing though, and this is one of the things I'm hoping for an update when we get a representative to come speak to us either at May or June, is they've been working on a plan to have 63rd Road, 62nd Avenue be a matched pair of parking protected bike lanes that gets you from Queens Boulevard to the Grand Central Parkway Service Road and the park. Their original idea was that that's all it would do. It would get you to the park, and they'd have a segment along the Grand Central Parkway Service Road that was a two-way bike line to connect the ends of 62nd and 63rd. We've proposed to them that they study actually extending that two-way bikeway as far down the Grand Central Parkway Service Road as they can to try and obtain a couple different benefits. One is that might enable the creation of maybe not 69th and Yellowstone as bike routes, but it would enable parallel streets that were quieter and less busy with cars as a way to get cyclists between Queens Boulevard and the Grand Central Parkway, and then onto the bike lanes that we have going over the park on both Jewel and 69th. The other thing hopefully it might address is that we have so many very large tractor trailers that come into the neighborhood so that they can park over there. That's been a long-standing problem. And if we can get that curb closed off as a bike route instead, as a bikeway, those trucks wouldn't be able to park there. So yeah, no, your point is very well taken. It's stuff that we continue to try and discuss with the DOT and what we hope to follow up with at our May and June meetings.
Thanks. Just I just want I'm not necessarily asking for the bike lanes on 69th. I'm just asking for the traffic buildup to be addressed anyway. And removing parking, I don't care, but the buildup that's happening from that problematic intersection, that they seem to be just raising their hands and saying, "Oh well," it's really affecting the community. So
yeah, and your block the box suggestion is a really interesting idea no one else has brought up. So okay. We can send that to John. When we say John, we're talking about John O'Neill, who's one of the DOT representatives. That's definitely something we can send on to John and have them explore that. That's a great idea.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Alexa. Pat Morgan and then TT, and then we've got to get to another report. So Pat, go ahead.
I just wanted to add for Peter that the Uber-like, let's go to Trader Joe that he just mentioned, ride pickup is also ADA accessible and has ramps on each side for people who need the ramps. And also the drivers are trained to work with individuals who are disabled. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are really important considerations.
Next is TT. TT, the floor is yours.
Hi, just adding on to Alexa's comment. I think that whole traffic buildup is going from the intersection at Yellowstone and Austin all the way up through actually Ascan and Austin. And now that you mentioned about that new change at 71st in Austin, I think that may also be adding to it too, because the area in between 71st and Ascan, there is a lot of double parking. There are deliveries of Amazon and UPS to the UPS store. And there's constant backup between 71st and Ascan, and also coming from Queens Boulevard on to those roads. So now that you're mentioning about that new traffic for the pedestrians, which I did notice the other day, which is great, but I wonder if there's a combination of the Yellowstone intersection and 71st that is causing a lot of buildup in addition to the double parking.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, TT. I'm sure there is. I think those observations are dead on. And we keep pushing back DOT for them to keep trying to find creative ways to address these. Though it should really be said also that ultimately, as long as people continue to bring motor vehicles into these small spaces, there's going to be a certain inevitability as well. There's only so much that can be done. We're dealing with physical things. There's either room or there isn't room. So we can change light timing. We can paint, don't block the box areas and hope that people will actually honor them. We can delete parking on some roads in order to create more volume space for cars, but that usually only begets more cars. I won't go into my whole spiel about induced demand, but feel free to Google it because it's a real thing and it's a problem. But anyway, absolutely, we'll keep pushing on that. But that's why we're looking at things like Circuit Ride. That's why we're hopeful that DOT can develop a bike route system that actually gives people safe options to get to different people, those who can bike, because anything we can do to get cars off the road is ultimately the actual solution to these problems. It's the cars that cause congestion. So we'll keep trying to address them as best we can. Thank you.
And Peter, this is Alejandra. Just one thing I would add is, TT, you mentioned the deliveries, Amazon deliveries and such, and DOT is also thinking about loading zones, designated loading zones, and so we've given some thoughts on that as well. And Peter, I don't know if that's if they had given us a deadline for that or not, but I think it's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, they had it. And thanks for bringing that up. I'm sorry, Heather, really, really quick, because that's important. There's two types of loading zones. One addresses TT's concerns on Austin, which is the commercial loading zones, and DOT's constantly reevaluating to where they can find some curb space for that. But DOT also has a program that they've been asking for input from for residential loading zones. So if in your neighborhood, there's a block which is constantly blocked by FedEx and Amazon trucks, email or call the office and let us know, because then we can put that in for the DOT to study if that's a suitable place for a residential loading zone, a space against the curb to get those vans out of the way. Thanks for that, Alejandra.
Does that answer your question, TT?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, next is the final report of the evening, the Aging Social Services Disabilities Report. Tonight will be from Latrice Davis. Go ahead, Latrice.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for sticking around. My name is Latrice Davis. I'm the interim co-chair of the Aging Social Services and Disabilities Committee alongside with Mark. And Monday's meeting, we met 2 new members, Julie and LT, along with the remaining members. We introduced ourselves. We talked about the second intergenerational program and plans for the next one, which is scheduled for June to celebrate Pride Month. That planning meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 5th at 6 o'clock for those who are interested. That's also the same day as the Queens Bus redesign, which I will be attending as a member of the Transportation Committee. Mark also discussed the executive committee meeting regarding budget and designated representative and how that would work. And I'm working on a presentation for next month for social engagement, regarding social engagement for seniors and people with disabilities. We're still nailing down a final date. I reached out to some contacts that were forwarded to me by my fellow committee member, Tanya Paget. I have yet to hear back from those people, but I have reached out to them. And Dr. Renee Mera, who's also on the committee, has said she was going to reach out to someone she knew, and I'm just waiting to see how that goes. The presentation on ageism will be pushed back to September, along with the presentation on senior fraud. Tanya is continuing to work on the resource directory, and if anyone wants to step up and help out in that regard, to reach out to her. And Mark is working on plans to make hard copies of the senior survey that we've been working on for the past year or so, and I offered to help out with that, distributing to local senior centers and libraries. And, as always, anyone who's interested in the work that we do, There's no task too small, too big or too small. Like, we'll take all comers. Just let us know, and we meet the second Monday of every month.
Patrice, thank you so much. That
You're
is a very committee, and they do solid work in the community. They don't just address issues, but they've also been working on an intergenerational program with our neighboring community, Board 9, and Queens Community House and Common Point, with intergenerational conversations between teens and seniors, and they have been wonderful. So far, they've done 2. The next one I'm very excited about in June. Can't wait to see it. So thank you so much, Latrice, Mark, and everyone on that committee for all the hard work and heavy lifting you do. Tanya, for the work you're doing as well with the resource guide. Next, then we're going to move on to the good and welfare section of our meeting. Good and welfare section is where we hear from members of our board that have announcements and things to let us know about the community, and then where we also hear from representatives from our elected officials. So the first person for good and welfare tonight, and if I have a list right now of Heidi Chain, Jean Silva, if you also have something to share during good and welfare, if you would please use the raised hand function so I can call on you in a correct order. So Heidi, the floor is yours.
Beautiful. Thank you, Heather. Next week, Wednesday, our Precinct Community Council is having a meeting on Zoom. We're still going to be on Zoom this month. Hopefully, if things go well in May and in June, we're going to try and meet in person. Just in case anybody doesn't know, our Precinct Council is a community-based organization where we work with the NYPD. You have the opportunity to ask questions, and questions for the Zoom should be submitted in advance to council112@yahoo.com. We also need you to RSVP, and then we'll give you the Zoom link. Once we're in person, you can come and ask your questions directly at that point. We encourage everybody to participate. Hope everybody does, and hope everybody, we will see you there. So it's next Wednesday. It's at 7:30. It's on Zoom. And anyone who wants to come, just please email us at council112@yahoo.
Can I ask a quick question, Heidi?
Sure.
Oh, do you know why we don't get representatives from 112 to come to our meetings anymore?
I take that, Heidi?
Sure, go ahead.
Heidi, can I take that if you don't mind? Elizabeth, actually the precinct, we've coordinated with them to have us at our next meeting in May.
Will
It's just been a matter of scheduling.
Okay, so will they continue to come to every meeting, or that will be one meeting and that's it?
We have spoken to the precinct, and speaking with them, we're having the deputy inspector come and speak to us in May. Then thereafter, they will send a rep to come to their meeting. Typically, it's one of their wonderful community affairs people. They will come and they can share any updates and hear any questions during our meeting. Typically, we're going to fold that into our good and welfare part of the meeting. And so we're going to be trying to coordinate that. But I want to first have them come to our meeting in May and give a report, and we can ask questions at that time.
Okay, thank you so much, Heather.
Elizabeth,
It does. Let me just say that. Thank you, Heather, for reporting.
Just so you know, Elizabeth, I, as a district manager, meet at my cabinet meeting with the precinct. So I do get the daily reports. We are in constant contact. For example, some of the stuff that happened last weekend, I mean, constant contact, like 1 o'clock in the morning, getting a phone call from one of the community affairs guys that someone was shot. So we are in constant contact. They might not be appearing in front of you, but they appear at my cabinet meeting once a month, and they appear daily when there are situations going on. The NCO officers stop into the office on a daily, I won't say on a daily basis, but they do stop in. So there is total communication there.
Okay, well, that's great to hear, Frank. But as you know, that prior to the pandemic, we had a representative or representatives from 112 that would come to every board meeting and report what was going on in the community. And it was really, really nice to have them there and to find out what was going on. So I'm glad that they're reporting to you, but they used to report to the entire committee, and we have not gotten that. since the incident with the young man in Forest Hills. And I
We had, we had, in defense of the 112, we had met with them, okay? And coming to my meeting, it's all public. So listen, we could talk about this offline, but they treat us very well.
I'm not
and
saying that they don't,
they were
Frank.
not-
I'm not
most
saying
of the
that they
time
don't.
were
I'm not
not
saying that they
at
don't.
our meetings. They
I
came if they
think
didn't have something at 1 PP, and they weren't always there. We have the record on that. But they
yeah,
are
I'm
in
not
constant
saying that they
communication.
don't treat us well. I'm not saying that at all. That is totally off point as to what I'm saying.
Okay, anyway, if anybody wants to come to our meeting, it
There you
is
go.
next Wednesday. It is direct with them. And if you have any questions, please email the questions and we'll make sure the questions get asked. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heidi. Appreciate it. Next up is Jean Silva. Jean, floor is yours.
Yes, just to be real quick, since we have so many Flushing Meadow Corona Park people out there, we have a wonderful event coming up for Earth Week. It's starting this Sunday, the 17th, and going to the 24th. I'm going to hold up a little flyer. I'll get it all out to you this week. But every day there's different events that are going on at the park. There's trail walking over at the Pat Dolan Trail. We have planting going on. We have paintings going on. So please check out the website for Alliance for Flushing Meadow Corona Park, and you can get it right away and go have fun at the park this week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. Next up is Brendan, then Latrice.
Thank you, Heather. Folks may know that SEIU Local 32BJ, which represents residential service workers, is currently in negotiations on a new contract with the Real Estate Advisory Board. That contract expires on April 20th. So, folks who live in buildings that have these workers may have received notices from their management companies about a potential strike. I just would, I would encourage folks to contact their management companies. I can say my experience with building service workers during the pandemic was nothing short of extraordinary, and the work that these members did. Living in a building where I was lucky enough to have doormen and supers, day in and day out, they showed up during the pandemic. And now, unfortunately, the Real Estate Advisory Board is asking for givebacks in terms of vacation and sick pay. So, the best way to avoid a strike is to contact your management company and ask them to contact the Real Estate Advisory Board. Encourage them to negotiate a contract that reflects the work and the sacrifice of these workers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Latrice?
Hello again, everyone. I just want to take this brief opportunity to tip my hat to former board chair Alexa Weitzman for her tweet regarding a former board member. His actions I do not condone in any way, shape, or form. And while this is probably the one time where I will be arrogant enough to speak for all current board members. To the new board members, do not do that. If you're going to agree to be on this board, please commit to public service. That is all I ask. Thank you.
Okay, Latrice. Okay, moving on to the elected officials. Tonight, we first have Michael Carlier from Assemblymember Hevesey's office. Michael,
I'm
sorry.
Pat's hand was up.
This is Pat.
Sorry?
I had my hand up.
Oh, Pat. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
Two things I want to bring up. One, our newest members, Joe Hennessy, who served on this board from 1970s until most recently when Alexa was elected board chair and most recently passed away, was an incredible public servant of this community. And he gave the words which I always tell to new members of the board. And since I don't have access to the exact words, he said these words when I was appointed to the board, and they were, "You're not here for yourself, you're here for the community you serve." And they have stuck with me, and they have always been important, and I would like to share those words with you again to our long-serving members, to our newest members. We are here to serve the community. We are not here to serve ourselves. Now, I just want to know if I could ask one question concerning the Trilon block. And if I may, can I ask it of Frank?
My voice is on the way out, but I'll try.
Okay. Are they listing it as Regal Park or are they listing it as Forest Hills?
I don't remember. I'll be honest with you. I don't remember.
Because they have been talking about it being Forest Hills. And it's actually Regal Park because the dividing line is 67th Avenue, not 99th Street and Queens Boulevard and 6 over there. Thank you. I'd just like you to bring that up.
I mean, we could look. We can look tomorrow after the call and check the application online and get back to you. That won't be too difficult, but we can follow up on that. Okay? Does that help?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. So I believe that is all of the good and welfare from the board. Now I would like to move on to our guest, Michael Carlier from Assemblymember Hevesey's office. Michael, the floor is yours now.
Yes, hello everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So just first things first, the Assemblyman wishes a happy Passover and Easter to those who observe, as well as a happy Ramadan Mubarak to those who also observe. We're just coming off the budget deadline that just passed, so just have a few budget updates on that end. The Assemblyman, as chair of the Children and Families Committee, led the effort upstate to secure an additional $7 billion to expand childcare eligibility in New York. This more or less means that there'll be an additional 400,000 seats for children to be eligible for childcare at facilities with the Office of Children and Family Services. So if anyone thinks that they might be eligible, feel free to contact our office to reach out about state-funded childcare services. Some additional budget priorities that the Assemblyman helped fight for were an additional $224 million to strengthen gun violence prevention efforts with law enforcement, an additional $41 million in flooding repair assistance from Hurricane Ida, which in particular hit this neighborhood especially hard. An additional $53 million in children's mental health programs, as well as an additional $20 million for the Asian American and Pacific Islander Equity Fund. That's basically the highlights of what the Assemblyman wanted to tout to the community in regards to the budget. Just some local updates as well. Over the weekend, we were out and about continuing our community park cleanup series. This Saturday on the 9th, we partnered with the Girl Scouts of America for a cleanup of Annandale Playground and PS 175. This Sunday, we also partnered with the Office of Councilmember Lynn Shulman and the 102 and 112 precincts to clear graffiti from Austin Street and as well as the underpath of the Jackie Robinson Parkway. A little further back, 2 weeks ago, we did host a park cleanup of McDonald Park, and of course, want to again thank Councilmember Lynn Shulman, of course, Community Board 6, who really helped turn out
Michael, half a minute.
Gotcha. And we will be continuing the park cleanup series as the season continues and hopefully the weather gets a little bit nicer. We do have a cleanup and composting event in the works in Glendale for later this month. We also do have a rain barrel distribution with the Department of Sanitation in the works, but should be sometime around in May. And just finally, due to the recent uptick in COVID, We are staying supplied with face masks, hand sanitizer, and at-home rapid tests. We have plenty to go around. So if you do find yourself needing PPE or a rapid test, please call our office and we can arrange either a delivery or a pickup at our district office. And you can call us at 718-263-5595, and we can figure out the logistics of all that. So that's basically all I have for now. But if you want to follow up with me, feel free to call our office and we can discuss any of these things further. Just real briefly in regards to the budget, the Assemblyman will also be sending out a district-wide mailer outlining some of the budget highlights.
Michael, yeah, it's way past the 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll definitely
wrap it up. Okay,
apologies.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much. And trust me to know that if you have a favorite park, more than likely Hevesy has either cleaned it or cleaning it in the future. They have covered quite a few parks with the cleaning, and it's a great opportunity also for your children to also come and help their communities. Next up, we have, thank you, Michael, for tonight. Next up, Sean McCabe, Senator Dabo's office. Sean? I saw you.
Good evening, everybody.
Oh, there you are.
Hi. Okay, so like Michael was saying, the budget passed. I know a lot of people are looking at bail reform on that. They did enact a couple of, they expanded the list of factors that judges must consider when setting bail. All right, so any previous violations of an order of protection, a history of gun violence, whether the charge is alleged to have caused seriously bodily harm or injury. I don't have to tell you guys this, but just don't be a criminal. Don't do bad things, and you won't have to worry about bail. As far as some community events we have, there's a paper shredding event May 21st at Atlas Park in Glendale from 10 to 1. Also the same day is a veteran information fair, which runs from 12 to 2. If you know any young veterans, especially, please let them know. A lot of the younger guys end up getting out of the military and just become Joe on the block, so they don't get aware of all these services that they have coming to them. Guys, happy Passover, happy Easter, all the best, and until next time. If you need any more comprehensive information, it's all on the Senator's Facebook page. I wish you all a good night, and welcome to all the new board members.
Thank you so much. Next up is Amparita Rosero from the Queensboro President's Office.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Good
Nice to
evening,
hear you.
everyone. Okay, great. Good evening. Welcome to all the new members and congratulations to all the reappointed members. I look forward to working with you. I just have one announcement going back to what Frank mentioned regarding the training. The training for the new board members will take place on May 3rd at the Helen Marshall Cultural Center beginning at 6 p.m. There is an email that will be sent out either tomorrow or Friday with more details. But the training is basically for the new members, and the swearing in will take place on the same day. So if there's any questions, please wait for the email, or you can contact me at 718-286-3077, or my email is arosero@queensbp.org. Thank you, and happy Easter and happy Passover. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amparita. I believe we also have Ido Shargal from the Mayor's Office Community Affairs Unit.
Yes.
Ido?
Yes. Hi, everyone. It's Ido. My name. I want to come tonight
Thank
and introduce myself. Yeah. My name is Ido Shargal, and I am with the Mayor's Community Affairs Unit, and I wanted to come tonight and introduce myself as now my second week as the brand new Queensboro Director for the Community Affairs Unit. So for those that may not know, CAU, we are the eyes and ears of the mayor, and our job is to be the link between the mayor's office and the communities and the community boards that we serve. I'm here and just want to introduce myself. This mayor and my commissioner have, I just wanted to most importantly say that, how important it is that we partner with the communities and to really strengthen those bonds. And the community board is the most kind of grassroots. And my commissioner has reiterated from the beginning that this is a priority of ours. So I wanted to come here, say hello. I am new to the position, but I am not new to the area. I live in Kew Gardens myself, and was in this position 2013-14, and may know some of the older community board members, and just people in the community. And I've worked with the district manager, so I'll be the point person working part and parcel with the district manager and all the agencies to make sure that the concerns of this board are heard and passed along to the mayor's office. So hi everyone, I look forward to meeting you in person in the future.
Thank you so much for being here this evening. We have one question, Mark Laster.
Yeah, please communicate to the mayor. I think you heard tonight, you were here, that we really feel, in this community, we feel very strongly about restoring the custom composting. So just, again, communicate the feelings and thoughts of this community board regarding that. Thank you.
Yes, I heard that. And
will. Go ahead, Ito.
No, I just said I noted that, and we'll look into that and bring that to the of the right, the right agency, the right people.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just to clarify, this community does not get curbside composting at this time. All efforts are typically volunteer and local group led. So, expanding it would be awesome. So thank you so much for coming. That is all I have for tonight. I believe I've not missed anyone. I've checked the list like 6 times. So I want to thank you all for a wonderful meeting tonight. Whether you're in the midst of Ramadan, Passover, or Christian Holy Week, or simply enjoying the spring, we wish you all the best. And in the midst of all of this stuff that's been going on, all the craziness that sometimes comes our way, that we just have a moment to kind of, as the sun is shining more, to sort of appreciate what we have and what's around us. I would like a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Thank you, Howard.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Good night, everyone. Continue
Good
to
night,
stay
everybody.
safe.
You all be
Good
safe.
night.
See you at the park.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.